legends where magic meets the heart. Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold, with heroes and villains new and old. Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan got the word. In the world of EV8 we play.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Commander's Pod. I am your pod father, Duncan.
I'm Sloan.
And we are without Jeff this week, so I would say we are at least 33% less aggro.
Yeah, at least minimum.
Yeah, minimum. So Jeff is away on a trip, and he should be back next week.
Yes.
So we'll have some fun without him. Today we're going to talk about alternate formats for Commander. We've talked a little bit about some of these before. We're going to go into a little more detail. And we've talked about the idea of doing a poker version of Commander.
Right. Yeah,
and
we brought it up.
figured out kind of some rules to work with for you guys to try out. Let us know what you think. So we'll go over that. We have a card of the day. Sloan's got some pro tips from a non-pro.
That's right.
So yeah, let's get into it. We have I got it into some games over the weekend. You weren't there, Jeff wasn't there.
I unfortunately, there is illness striking the Sloan household right now. And so I had a son had a fever, then he didn't have a fever, then my daughter didn't feel good, then she did feel good. Now my son has a fever again for some reason. It's just...
There's a lot of stuff going on.
So unfortunately this weekend I was unable to escape and get out there into the wild. But you did, and Aether Drift...
Yep. So Aether Drift pre-release, and pre-orders came in.
That's right.
So I had gotten both Commander decks, but I really only cared about a few of the cards in the zombie deck because I already had most of the ones I wanted.
Right.
So I took a few out, and I had a Commander deck that I've been working on with the Lich Queen as the
okay. And which one's the Lich Queen?
She's the one that says if you. See, I don't remember her real name because I have the Evil Dead version.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But she says when you attack with zombies, for each attacking zombie, you draw a card, then you discard that many cards.
Okay, so it's like a dig deck.
Yep. It's similar. It goes well with Temet, who is the new commander,
right?
Who says you do that once when you attack, but then zombies you control get +1/+0 for each card you've drawn.
Right. Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah,
so you can make a real big army in one turn when you swing.
Yeah.
They could be like +8 or +9.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah, it's every single zombie.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's.
So let me tell you how gross it got. So first of all, I did not think I'd like tribal so much. I don't really play tribal. I've tried elf ball a little bit.
Well, it's because elf's so overdone in my opinion.
Yeah, but I just really. I thought about building a Minotaur deck, but then somebody else did, so I didn't. I have a rat deck, and it's strong, but I'm like, meh. I have a goblin deck.
Well, because I will say, in all fairness, your rat deck is just basically rat colony, right? For the most part, because there's
mine has less rat colony than most people's.
Yeah,
so
but you still run a decent amount of them, though.
I mean, I think I have 12, 13, something like that. Whereas some people run 20 or 30.
Yeah.
You know, but so anyway, I did not think I would like tribal this much. I loved it. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. The deck's a lot of fun. Of course, I have rooftop storms. So, and I got
You're welcome.
Yeah, you pulled that.
I pulled
on camera.
I pulled two of them, I think.
If you guys haven't watched, he opened the box for me of Innistrad Remastered.
Yeah,
I got that and Necro Duality.
Yep, yeah, you got both.
One of my games, I had both.
Wow. And when I pulled them, I was like, Duncan's gonna love these for that zombie deck he's talking about. Yeah. Like these are two of like the musts.
And then 3 out of the 5 games I played that deck, I got Rooftop Storm. Jeez. I was like, all right. But I only got to really use it once. I got to use it a little bit a couple times, but like one time I got it, but I had no draw, so I played like 1 or 2 zombies.
Right, you didn't really get value out of it.
Yeah, and then somebody exiled it.
Yeah, so. Yeah. You don't let that sit around.
No. But so that it was fun. But I didn't win with it till the very last game, and then boy did I win. But I was a problem quite a few times. But so the last time I won, I had Rooftop Storm. I only had my commander and 1 other zombie out, or no, 3 other zombies out at the beginning of turn, but they weren't big.
Right.
She's a 4. Another one was a 4/2. I think I had like a 2/3 and a 2/2 or something. Okay, nothing. But I had 1 player I knew I could kill, but the other player that was left, Bryce, I was not sure I could get there.
Right.
But so I drew for turn, and I was like, oh, I can get there. Because I had 3 zombies in my hand.
Okay.
Okay. And the one I drew is the coup de grace for this. But so I played 1 zombie, which was Temet. So now,
Yep. Now
when
your
my
draw.
commander does the thing,
Yeah.
I get +1/+0 for each draw.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
For all your zombies. Yep.
Then I can't remember what the other zombie was. It wasn't really relevant. But the last zombie I played out of my hand said, when this zombie comes into play, and this is why I drew for turn, return all zombies from your graveyard into the play.
Oh, jeez. And you have some that give haste, right?
Yeah.
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 Jeez Louise.
So I had some haste enablers. But the main thing was when I swung out with everything that could attack, it still wasn't lethal, right?
Right.
So I swung enough to kill the player I needed to kill. Because actually, I think I might have done it with only commander damage. I think so. My commander went there.
Right.
And I sweat everything else at Bryce. But he's like, oh, well, that doesn't kill me. I go, draw trigger.
Yeah. Before damage.
So I
is
drew
dealt.
my cards. And then they were all like +8/+8.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, never mind. I'm
Yeah,
dead.
yeah.
I'm like, yep. Because he had 2 blockers.
Right. Yeah.
know?
But the big thing with zombies, which is I think one of the reasons why they're a little bit more fun when it comes to tribal, is because they have so much recursion in them, and like
Yeah.
that's what kind of makes it fun. Is obviously they kind of play on the zombie theme, but it's like, oh, you did a board wipe. Oh, shucks, and it's like I recur all my zombies.
Yeah.
Like it's a grave horde.
But I do, my one thing about it is there's so much draw discard in it. I hate it because I have to make choices that I don't want to make. You know what I mean? I have to, but anyway.
Yeah,
but
I get
it was,
that.
still, I loved playing it. It was so much fun. I did have to stop playing it because Luke was playing his Henzi deck, which we've discussed is just disgusting. So
Right.
then I played my Lisa Shroud of the Dusk,
Right.
which whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life.
Yeah, and this is the one where you can pay life to pay for commander. Or
Yeah, I
whatever.
don't pay commander tax. I pay 2 life for each 2 mana from their commander tax instead.
Right.
And then I have a lot of other things in there, like the Rug of Smoldering, I think it's called, where that's another one. For each spell you've cast that turn, you pay cumulative life. So the first spell, it's 1 life.
Yeah,
The
oh,
second
yeah,
spell
that's
is-
right. That's
so
right. Yeah,
right
you
there
played
with her
that.
and that's a minimum of 3 you're going
Right.
to take. And then I had another thing out that said whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, you pay a life. So if it's an instant or sorcery, it's 4 life off the top if it's the first spell you've cast. It was crazy. But I had this thing I did where I had the artifact that says regain life equal to the total life all players have lost this turn. So but it's my turn. I have it out. But what I did was I played a few spells and got myself really low. And I think I had to cast my commander from the command zone. That was like the 3rd time. So right there,
That's 6.
that's 6.
Yeah.
Well, it's 4 because the first time doesn't count. So you get 2
Oh,
for the
that's right,
second,
that's right,
2
yeah.
for the third.
So
But that's 4. But I got down like 12, 14 life, something like that. And then I played something that redistributed life totals. So there was a player to my right, Paul, who's a newer player.
Right.
He had 8 life. Well, I gave that to Lucas.
Yeah, of course. Why not?
Yeah, yeah. So I gave 8 life to Lucas. Lucas had 13 life. I gave that to, I forget who was sitting across from me at that point. And then I gave Paul like 15 life, and I had 27. But then I redistributed life totals.
Right.
And so like Lucas had lost like 5. Anyway, I gained like 40 something life or whatever.
Jeez.
So I was up at like 63. And then it gets back around to Lucas. I go ahead, cast a spell. It's got to cost a quarter of your life. Because somebody got rid of the rug of smoldering.
Right.
But even with her, it's like it's a quarter of your life. So he casts a spell. I'm like, do another one. It's a third of your life. So it was just crazy that like, and he got down to 2 life and he's like, I scoop.
Yeah, because that's the one thing. Henzi is still technically casting.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a alternative casting cost,
Yep.
but it's still a cast. So that is the plus, but also as Lucas very quickly found out, the negative of blitz.
Yep.
But that's
So-
cool, man. That's good. I'm glad you got to play zombies and you enjoyed it, because I do have a couple of tribal decks myself. I have the Assassins one with Assassin's Creed. I have the Soldier
Soldiers.
one with Commander Mustard. And then I have my favorite one, because it's the exact opposite of tribal, but it is tribal, which is my non-tribal Volvo.
Yeah.
Volo. Yeah. Volo.
I have a
because he-
legendary tribal, I guess you could call it, which really it's not tribal. but
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
all
I have one of
legendary.
those too with Aragorn the Uniter. So, which I do enjoy that one because his ability is so fun. Jeez
Yeah.
Louise. Roaming Throne in him is just silly. But yeah, well, good stuff, man. I'm glad
Yep.
you got to get out there. You got to play with new. Any other Aether Drift decks out there over the
So
weekend?
there was a lot of zombies, but they were all playing Temet.
Yeah, they were playing Timid. No one,
and it
so
was
no one
like-
made the other guy, huh?
Nope, nobody made the other guy. I'm
remember his
building
name.
him as a separate deck because I
Right.
don't feel like he's specifically zombie.
Yeah,
I mean,
he is.
but he's
he's-
a discard zombie. which is
He's
very
like
different.
a weird non-zombie tribal because he makes them into zombies. So you still want some of that stuff that's zombie synergy,
right.
like we talked about with Jeff. Even though Jeff says, "No, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to build whatever I want." I'm like, all right, whatever. But because you still want to get the advantages for zombies, because at the end of the day, like you creating those tokens whenever they go into your graveyard, because they're going to be coming in tapped. You know, if there's things you want to do off of them potentially, or if you want to protect them, you still want to have stuff that protects zombies. So,
Right.
you know, I still think there's a little bit of tribal to be played there. But yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, he's a weird kind of zombie
Right.
deck.
So, but I'm building him separate. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say about building this, it was very hard for me because I have such a large collection.
Yeah.
I didn't need to buy much.
Right.
I bought the Lich Queen, and I bought like 2 other cards,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything else I had. And then actually, I did open Play Booster box while I was there.
Okay.
And from that, I got mummy wrappings or cursed wrappings, whatever it's called.
Oh,
from this
okay. I
set.
think I know what you're
And-
talking about. Yeah.
And I got another zombie, which I can't remember. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. So I put them in, but I didn't get to play them yet. But the thing that was hard is when I was building it, I had so many zombies and so many like things that care about tribal and give bonuses and stuff. When I actually counted how many cards I had pulled 120 lands not included. Do you know how hard it was for me to cut down to 67?
Yeah, I remember back in the day when I first got you and Jeff to get into Commander. I remember it was the funniest thing because you said to me, you said, Sloan, how can someone struggle to build a 100-card deck?
Yeah.
Like, I can't even think of 100 cards to put in a deck. And I remember like a week or two later when we met up for our tabletop game that we were playing, I think it was Rifts at the time or something like that maybe or whatever. We came back and we were talking about it. You're like, yeah, I went to go build my first deck. I have 600 cards.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, not so easy, huh? Like, it's a lot harder than you think.
No, there's so much good stuff you want to put in there.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I'm glad you got to play something a little different.
Yep.
That's always fun when you kind of find a new thing you like inside of something you already love.
Yeah, and so we almost had a game that was 5 players, all undead. One of them was playing was going to play vampires. The other 4 of us were going to play zombies.
That's funny.
But then another player showed up, so we just split into 2
okay.
threes right as we were about to start.
Well, if any of you are out there very artistic, I have an alternate art card that I think would be cool. Someone should make Michael Jackson Thriller a zombie commander. I don't know what zombie, but pick a zombie commander and make him the commander with the the Michael Jackson zombified version with the red jacket and stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool alt art. If one of you are artistic enough to do it, please do it and then send it to me and I'll build that deck because that would be fun.
That would be cool.
That's a cool. I was thinking of it when you're talking to me. I was like, oh, especially if you did that giant grave purge thing, like that scene where they're all coming out. You can make that the alternate art for that card. That'd be fun. So.
But so let's move on to card of the day.
Yeah.
And this is one I play in a lot of blue decks. Anything that has blue, where you think you can get at least 2 blue pips, you can pull this off.
Yeah.
It's Turnabout. And Turnabout is an instant. It's an uncommon. It costs 2 and 2 blue pips. And it says choose artifact, creature, or land. Tap all untapped permanents of the chosen type target player controls, or untap all tapped permanents that player controls.
This is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, there's so much you can do with this. You could, at somebody's upkeep, tap all their lands.
Yeah. You
Then-
could, at someone's upkeep, untap all your lands.
Yep.
And be ready for them.
You could, if you have 7, 8 lands, even just 7 or 8, tap them all, float the mana, spend 4 of it to cast a spell, untap them. You're going to gain.
You're netting a lot of
3
mana.
or 4 mana. So you can do that. You can make sure somebody can't attack you by tapping them all down. If you've tapped out your creatures, you can untap them to block. There was so many things.
There is a lot of applications to this card, I will say for sure. This is one that I've seen before. Obviously, with it being in blue, Duncan is going to be the I guess forerunner of all the ways that you could use and abuse it.
Yep. So when we were going over the notes for this, you're like, wait, isn't that banned? I'm like, I hope not, because it's in like a ton of my decks.
Yeah, because I thought there was because the art when I looked it up is very old school, and it reminded me of a different art of a different card. I think is what it was that is banned, and that's why I was like,
this one is not.
Yeah, this is not banned. It is legal in Commander. So
I mean, it's banned in Standard because it's not printed, but in Standard. But
that's just because it's not in Cycle.
Right.
But I mean, I will say the one nice thing is because Jeff's not here, you can put the card right here between us.
Yeah.
And it won't block anyone's face.
No. Should be good.
So you guys can see the picture as it sits right here in between us. But I mean, the first thing I thought of when you showed this is I was like, this is such a great combat trick card. Jeez Louise. If you want to bully somebody so hard, you swing out and they're like, oh, he's open. I'm just going to end his life and be like, oh, cool. So before declare blockers, after declare attackers, I'm going to untap all my creatures and I'm going to murder you.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a cheeky card, dude. Like, and of course, I feel like out of the three of us, I'm more of the combat heavy kind of play style. So that's where my first thought went. And then I was reading it and I kept thinking, I was like, yeah, you could literally make someone waste a turn because you could tap down all their lands after their untap step.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guarantee you that's what Duncan does with this.
Oh, it's one of the things.
Yeah.
It's one of the
It's
things.
like the first thing I thought of, and I was like, that's what Duncan does. That's why this is here. Because he's a control freak, and he's like, you know what? Listen, you didn't say something to me nicely. You didn't ask before.
That is not how I choose to do things.
You didn't ask. Therefore, you don't have to ask anymore. I'm gonna fix this for you. You don't have any lands this turn.
I love it too because I have done it when somebody's like real gloaty, like they think they got this. They're like, you can see it. They may say something,
right?
And you play this on their upkeep, tap down their lands, and they're like, "You what?
You what? You can't do that. I get to untap. No. We already passed that phase, my son. You can't do anything. Oh, I tap him down in response. Great. What are you going to do at instant speed with 10 mana before you go to your upkeep and draw? Let me know.
And even if they use the mana, great. You made them use it as instant instead of what they wanted to do.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a super cool card. And I think you want to know what my favorite part about this card is?
What's that?
The average cost, I think, when I looked it up on TCG, said 30 cents.
Yeah. So cheap.
30-cent card.
It is not played.
I mean, hands down, this might be one of the most underplayed, cheapest cards we've talked about so far, by far.
Yep.
Like this is ridiculous that this card exists, and it's not in every single blue deck for EDH. Like I get it's expensive mana wise, two blue.
I mean, it's not that expensive,
but it's not when you think about it, because like this is Rewind, and this is better than Rewind because not only do you get your 4 mana back if you use it on yourself, you get a lot more mana back, and then you can just start dumping counters left and right if that's what you're doing this with. Yeah. This is, in my mind, this is such a great mono blue counter control deck. This, if I were building a mod, this would go in at 100%.
Yeah,
100% of the time, 10 out of 10 times.
You mean a Duncan deck?
A Duncan deck, yeah.
A Duncan deck, yeah.
The Podfather's specialty.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. So definitely think that is a cool one. Definitely do not see almost anyone play it except for probably you. And I mean, we've played a lot of games, and I can't think of one person who's played this.
That's one of the cards that Jeff jokes about when I find something, and I'm like, oh, I bought like 30.
30, yeah. Well, I'm excited for me to get a copy of it and see what I can do with it, because that's definitely a fun card. And so, but.
I love the flavor text.
Oh, yeah.
That was my text. Yeah. The best cure for a big ego is a little failure.
Oh, beautiful.
It's so good.
That almost should be the name of the card. I know it's too long, but that would be such a great name. Big ego, little failure. Like that should be the name of the card. That's great.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned, Jeff is missing, but we get to play our fun game. What is aggroing Jeff? And we're going to guess.
Yep.
And we're going to see if we're going to be right next week when he comes back.
So he's traveling again.
He's traveling again. So last weekend he traveled. He went to a MegaCon event.
Yep.
This week, where's he traveling? Do we know where he's going?
He's going to St. Kitts. It's for work.
There you go. So he has 2 travel weekends back to back. I bet, because of how furious he was, he is going to complain about MegaCon. I like it, on Saturday specifically, the crowdedness of MegaCon. Yeah. I mean, I got $10 saying that's got to be it. There's no way he came in fuming today.
As long as we don't tell him, Oh, he'll listen to this though.
No, he doesn't listen to our show.
He does.
Does he?
Yeah.
It
He doesn't
seem
read
like-
the notes beforehand.
He doesn't read the notes
And he
beforehand.
doesn't listen to us
while
while we're talking.
Yeah.
But he does listen to it.
But I will say the last time we did this, he was honest and he said, I did listen, but I already kind of made up my mind on what was, and he still was honest, and I believe him. So I do think, Jeff, when you do listen to this, my guess is that you're complaining about Saturday MegaCon when you were there in the crowded and
and here's the thing: he could have gone all 4 days. He had passes for all 4 days.
Yeah, that's what's
he didn't go
crazy, dude.
Thursday, Friday when it would have been slower.
And I even told him, I was like, dude, like if you wanted to be able to walk around and enjoy MegaCon and look at all the stuff and check out the vendors, and
Thursday's the day to go. That's the day.
Thursday, I kind of argue
Friday's a little
Friday.
bit.
Friday's a little bit more busy, but the cool thing about Friday is like there's some people cosplaying, so you still get to see some cosplayers, and then a lot of the
Well, that was one of his
on-site
complaints.
talent
Well,
stuff is
we'll
there.
let you guys hear when he talks about
Right.
it.
So, but that's my guess. Are you gonna? You think it's gonna be something else? Because he is traveling again. So
No,
there's a chance. That,
I mean, if something goes wrong, he'll complain about that. If he complains about like there wasn't, what was the thing from Office Space where he was like, "Excuse me, I said no salt on the rim, and there's salt on my rim." It could be something like that,
Yeah,
maybe.
something
since
is-
he doesn't drink.
yeah.
But I feel like he could come back with some first world problem from his trip to.
Yeah.
St.
I mean,
Kitts.
because he's flying, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he ripped on the airport with thing last time, so there's a good chance he could do that one. Because that would
but
be more
I
fresh.
think you're right because he was very upset about.
Okay,
They
yeah.
stayed like I think less than an hour at Mega.
Yeah, he was like, we were barely there. I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand it. I left. I was like, well, you should have asked me before.
Yeah, I
you
was
picked
upset
it.
I didn't get to go.
Yeah,
because
because I'm
we had-
okay with walking. That's why I like going, as I love looking at the cosplays and like kind of seeing all the voice actors. Because I watch a lot of anime, so like seeing all the voice actors in person and stuff like that's cool. So, but all right, well, that's our what's aggroing Jeff.
Yep,
Yes,
that's our prediction.
that's our prediction. We're gonna see if we're right
place your
next
bets.
week. Yeah, see, maybe put in the comments or send us an email what you think Jeff's gonna complain about. I mean, he's got 2 trips back to back, so there's a good chance it's travel related. If you wanted to guess.
So counterspell segment.
Yeah.
Today I want to discuss, is Magic losing its focus? What I mean by that is, I mean, look at the last few sets. So we had a racing set. Before that we had a horror set. I'm talking about standard sets. Before that we had a furry set. Before that we had a cowboy set. Where's Magic? Where is the fantasy setting with no weirdness? What happened?
So here's the thing. So kind of the first question that we're going to go over, which is kind of what you just said, is basically, are we getting too far away from Magic? Essentially is the way it's worded on our prep sheet. I mean,
Because then when you intersperse the universes beyond as well,
right.
I mean, the only real pure Magic we're getting is the remastered sets.
Right, and I think part of that has to do with maybe they can't really think of any original planes to go to, because they've kind of touched on all of the original planes and they already went there, and then they've done a bunch of stuff lore-wise, I guess. So maybe that could be part of it. I mean, it's hard to say because the thing is, and I will say, Duncan writes our show preps and he kind of comes up with the ideas, and then we kind of go back and forth and let him know what we think and what maybe we're going to do if we have time. But for the most part, Duncan writes up a lot of these, and we're now 52 in, and it seems like, how do we have anything else to talk about? Sometimes it feels like we always find something because there's always something new going, especially now since we're doing weekly recordings. It makes it a lot easier. But I mean, I can only imagine if you came up with an entire universe. It's the same kind of idea of like, people are like, when movie series or franchises, TV shows kind of get to a point, they're like, all right, this is done, right? Like, we're going to put this to bed. Like the classic one I keep making fun of my wife for, she loves it. I love my wife, but oh my gosh, Grey's Anatomy. It's like on season 29. It's the same show over and over
It's still
again.
on?
It's still, they had 3 final seasons and they kept going after the final. Like, I'm like, guys, just end it. It's the same stupid show over and over and over again. And I think that could be part of the reason why we're no longer in Magic the way we were, right? Because what would be worse? The fact that they don't come up with anything new at all because they've basically written out all their plot lines and they don't really have anywhere to go, and so now we're just getting regurgitated stuff that isn't really exciting anymore? Or would we rather at least get some out-of-the-box thinking things, right? And so it's kind of hard to, I guess, be upset with it. But with that being said, I think, sure, they could have stayed inside the Magic universe. Like, they're, just because I know the most about it, let's say the Assassin's Creed set, right? Is the free running mechanic something they couldn't have thought of inside the Magic world? No, absolutely not. I think they could have eventually stumbled across that with Assassins. would it have been as popular or been as exciting if it wasn't attached to Assassin's Creed? I don't think so. I think the fact that it was attached to Assassin's Creed, one, brought in newer players, brought in new people to our game, and then two, it was a cool way that was directly related to that world that added mechanics to this game. It wasn't super arbitrary, I guess is the best way to put it. So, yeah, I guess we have kind of gotten away from the original writings of Magic and what it originally was, but at the same time, if they're not doing it in a way, now again, before I say this, I get SpongeBob exists. We're not going to talk about SpongeBob.
Right.
We're not bringing that up. We're not bringing up My Little Pony.
We're not talking about Bruno.
We're not talking. Yeah, like we're not going to talk about those like crazy, uncrazy sets. And I know SpongeBob's an actual legal set. I'm not going to talk about that. That's a redheaded stepchild. All right. My point is that there is a little bit of, yeah, we've gotten away from it, but I don't think it's ruined anything. I don't think it's.
No, I don't think it's ruined anything. But like the other part of this is they used to have a story,
right,
of what this game was.
Right, and that's
right?
point, and that's question 2 you brought up here.
Yeah.
But we can roll into it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, and then it'll become one big conversation. But like, it used to be you were the planeswalker. We've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
You were using this mana to cast your spells, to summon your creatures, to summon allies.
Right.
You know, that's no longer what Magic is. Magic is not. It's not meta anymore. It's just you. It's supposed to be just a game.
Yeah, it's
right?
just a game, right?
It's just a game. There isn't a story behind it.
Yeah, we ain't Ash catching. We ain't catching
There's
them all.
stories in the what do you call it? In the sets, right? But
Right.
my thing is, so they'll do a string of sets that all have a story, like they did with the Phyrexian battles back in March on the Machines,
and
that.
then Aftermath,
Right.
and then yep.
So sometimes they'll stretch between sets.
Right.
You know, that whole season built up, it was the same arching story. Since then, though, they went the opposite direction. There is no overarching thing. They'll bring back a couple things, like the fact that Duretti is no longer a planeswalker,
Right.
and he was competing to get the Aether Spark to get some of that back without having it naturally, things like that. But they're not doing the okay, here's the story of the season or the story of the year
Right.
or anything like that. And they're only doing stories within the sets, and sometimes it's an afterthought with like Bloomborough. They never really said, why are they now creatures?
Right, and the only thing I can find on that, because we did talk about it was just a different plane of existence, and that was the way that they existed in that world.
Yeah.
On that plane. Which,
But I thought
again,
in other
is kind
instances they've traveled between those planes.
right.
So now, but they're saying, but this isn't that person. That's a different one. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a different alternate reality version or something.
I mean,
it's like, come on.
I think the big thing is we've gotten past the point where people ultimately care about stories.
But
right?
they've done that to themselves.
But that's true in most things, right? Most people really don't, like, for example, if you were to ask anybody that it like loves the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? And you were to ask them, well, how many comic books like have you read of that character, like Iron Man, for example? How many Iron Man comic books have you read? Like, the original story and like everything about. No, I just know him from MCU. So would you want to ever read any comic books? No, I just watch the movies. Like we're kind of at that point now where like people really don't care about backstories anymore, which is kind of funny to say because we play D&D, and that's a big part of D&D is character development.
But even in D&D, there's a lot of players that are just like, here's my character. What's his backstory? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that's funny to me is because that I feel like that's maybe just a result of kind of the way the world is now. Like, we don't really care about backstories. We don't care about connections. I mean, even in TV shows, once the show starts and stuff like that, very little times is there things where like the plot is like pretty consistent all the way through, and like by the end of it, everyone's like, "Oh, that was amazing! They connected all these things to this, to that, to that." I know Game of Thrones, a lot of people will say that was like that, and that might be one of the reasons why so many people loved it, because it was something that we didn't really have anymore.
Yeah, until the last season when they blew it up.
Right. And that's what happens. But, I mean, so it could be that. And maybe the other part is, too, because I do remember when they did the Phyrexian battles and in the Aftermath, a lot of people were upset.
Yeah.
About, like, the way they said Aftermath.
It was so traumatic.
Right. And like maybe that's why
What do
they
you
got away
mean
from
you,
it.
You stripped Jace of his spark.
Right. Like right. Exactly. Like maybe that's why they're like, okay, well maybe we're not gonna do stories anymore because like the people who do follow this are a little too intense about it. Like this is a little crazy,
I mean,
know. So
Magic players intense? No.
I mean, I'm not. I'm a very calm and collected
Yes.
human being.
Yes, door.
I can't even get through that without
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah, Jeff's bathroom door says otherwise.
No, stop it.
But anyway, so
That was a crappy door.
It sounds like what we're saying is yes, they've lost their focus, but who cares?
It's almost yeah. It's kind of like that. That's what it is. Like if the original story was so good, I do think that and they were able to be consistent with it. I do think that maybe there would be a bigger draw for it. But again, they're trying to make a Netflix series. Maybe that's where they'll do their story creation instead.
Oh, now that I would love if they now tell the story in a TV show format for
Right.
each set as it came out.
Right.
Oh, but they won't. There's no
well,
way.
but what
The
I'm
amount
saying
of
is
prep
though they
they
go
would
all
have
the way
to
back
do.
to 92 though. Like so they have plenty of time. Like they have plenty of materials to go off of. It's not like they need to start with last year's sets.
Yeah.
Like they could go back to 92 where the game started, and they could. Or what was the original set where the Planeswalkers came into existence? What was that set?
Oh, geez, I don't remember.
It
was.
I mean, it was early 2000s maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So like they could even go back to that, and they could start there. That's 20 years of material that you could
Yeah.
work off of, and and maybe they can make better sense of it than the writers do at Wizards. No offense, guys, if any of you watch, but it's one of those things where like maybe like that's where a lot of things are doing it. League of Legends did it, right? League of Legends had Arcane, which was a huge series on Netflix, and it was only 3 seasons long, but oh my gosh, everyone loved it. I think 2 actually. But it was a great show. It was well done, and it talked about characters that exist. So, I mean, I think that's what most of the media now is, and including like games, where they're focused more on let's just make the game to be playable and add mechanics and do all these things. Your favorite part, new mechanics, new set.
Yeah, right.
Hashtag Duncan. But maybe that's what they're focusing on. Maybe they're focusing all the story to be in that show that they're creating. Who knows?
Yeah.
That would be cool though. If
That
it was.
would be cool if they can start doing the set stories as a show.
Oh, that'd be dope.
Because they do those little videos, and
Right.
I love the videos.
yeah.
Like remember when they did Eldraine, even that one that was
Yeah.
kind of goofy with the gingerbread people and stuff. I still liked watching
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
They haven't really been doing that much either.
And
I mean,
again,
they did it for
maybe,
Thunder Junction. Maybe I just haven't seen the others.
I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of them posted either. But again, maybe it's because they're focusing all that kind of stuff on this show. Because the last time we heard about the show was what, November?
Yeah, there was another update where they said it's because remember originally they said they were looking at doing it. Now it's officially like it's in the works. It is happening.
Yeah, and I remember the article that we found said that all of the original stuff that they had started when they
Was
originally
scrapped.
was scrapped, and they're
Yeah.
restarting from scratch. And then the guy who's directing it was the dude who did a couple of really good sci-fi movies that
Yeah.
some people really like. So hopefully, when that show drops, whenever that may be, we'll get some answers on why their story is lacking now in their between sets, and maybe it's all being dumped into that show. Who knows?
Maybe we'll see.
Which would be cool.
Yeah, maybe they'll start using whatever that comes up with for the sets. Maybe it'll be the other way around. Who knows?
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. But let's move on to our main topic. Okay, so this is talking about ways to spice up Magic, different ways to play, or
Yeah.
EDH specifically.
Yeah. Commander.
So for the one way, and we've talked about the first two before, and then we'll talk about the poker.
Yeah.
So ArcEnemy, so they just not reprinted. They printed some more ArcEnemy cards in Duskmourn.
Right. Which we played.
Yep.
Fun.
Tons of fun. And I've talked about, I had the ones from Nicol Bolas, ArcEnemy Nicol Bolas. So I have now almost all the ArcEnemy cards that were ever printed.
Right.
And then originally they had ArcEnemy theme decks,
Mm-hmm.
which are now like selling for like $200 and something if you want the whole boxed, unopened thing. But you can buy these cards individually,
Yeah.
and they're cheap. Nobody is paying a ton of money for these cards.
Right.
And they are. I think they're a ton of fun. I've never not had fun when I do it.
Yeah, ArcEnemy is super fun. It's a little of a spin because the new one that they did it is a little different, where everyone's the ArcEnemy with Duskmourn, and then the original one is there's one person who's quote unquote Nicol Bolas, and then the three of you are trying to kill said person, so they get advantages and bonuses for being the ArcEnemy. So there's technically, even inside of ArcEnemy, there's two different ways to play it depending on how you want to.
Yeah. So the way for Commander that they now have is the Commander format
Right.
for ArcEnemy is you each get a deck of 10 ArcEnemy cards.
And each of you are an ArcEnemy, so you each
Yeah.
have your own little 10 stacks. So there's
Yeah.
40 ArcEnemy cards in total.
But
quote
you could
unquote.
also, if you don't have enough cards for everybody,
yeah,
you could shuffle them together and make one.
Yeah, you can just
ArcEnemy
make one deck
and
right in the
each
middle and
turn
everyone just-
somebody. Yeah.
everyone
But the
just flips
thing
it
about
over.
making your own is you get stuff that has more synergy with your deck.
Yeah, you can customize a little bit more, which is
Yeah.
kind of
Because when you get something that says all your creatures get +2/+0 and you're not playing
creature deck.
creature deck, it's like
Yeah.
yeah.
But I guess that's too maybe some of the fun in the randomization of it. If you all just play off of one stack, it's like maybe that one guy wants that one and he doesn't get it because
Yeah.
you ate it. So that's kind of a
I
to-
want them to make some like negative cards.
yeah, that'd be
Maybe
fun.
something bad happens to you.
Yeah,
sometimes. But
like or you get to do something bad to somebody, like you can tap down target opponent's creature.
oh, they have stuff like that.
or things like that.
yeah,
That's
they have stuff like that.
Another format on here that we can touch base on real quick before we go to the next one, because it's actually already set up, is plane chase. So that's another
Yep.
way you can do it. Plane chase is super fun. Plane chase cards are in the middle. Whenever you're on that plane, it does a certain thing. You roll a dice.
They put out more of those in
They
Doctor
did.
Who. Was it
Yep.
Doctor Who?
Yeah, and then they did some more last year, because I remember there was a new set that came out. It might have been right around Dustmore, and I can't remember when it was, but there was a set of
I
even the
thought it
plane
was Doctor
chases.
Who.
It might have been. I can't
I
remember
think it
who it
was.
was. But plane chase is super fun. If you've never played it before, again,
It's a similar idea, but this time there is just the one set
yeah.
of cards, and
And then that
trigger it.
affects everybody in the
Yep.
in the game. So all 4 of you are affected by whatever plane's showing.
Yep.
So that's fun too if you haven't
yep.
played that one.
Another format, which is there's varying feelings about the format. Some people love it, some people
Right.
hate it. Sheriff.
Yep.
So the roles. Let's talk about the specifics of this because we haven't really gotten into it.
Yeah.
The roles are sheriff, deputy, renegade, and outlaws.
Yep.
Sheriff's role is revealed. All the others remain hidden. And the outlaws win if the sheriff dies, no
Yep.
matter how that happens. The deputies win if the sheriff survives. The renegades win if the sheriff is the last to die.
Right.
And so that's kind of key because you may have renegades trying to protect the sheriff at certain points.
Right. And then they're trying to kill other people at other points.
Right.
And so the fun thing about this game is this is I don't want to call it a card. So there's a version of this that's basically the same thing, but you kind of just play it in like a group of people. So you get like 7 people to sit down and you dish out like playing cards, and like the ace is the sheriff, and then the 2 kings are the deputies, the 2 queens are this and that. And then you just kind of close your eyes, and then he says, all right, sheriff, wake up. And there's townspeople. And then you have to try to figure out who the outlaws are, because they kill everybody when everyone else's eyes are closed. It says the outlaws wake up, and you point at 2 people, and they can or they each agree to kill 1 person. They kill that person. And, so it's
Werewolf
kind of
is like that too.
yeah, werewolf is what the other format is. So there's that. The cool thing is deputy, renegades, and outlaws, of course, are hidden the whole time, so no one knows who those are.
Right.
There's an actual card game of this called Samurai Sword, and it literally has its own card decks and everything. Pretty much the exact same concept as this, except it's Emperor, Ninjas, Samurai, and Ronin are
Yep.
the classes. So, but it's a very cool format. It's super fun
So-
idea.
So, and the way it works is, so with 4 players, you would have 1 sheriff, 1 renegade, and 2 outlaws. 5 players, you have 1 sheriff, 1 renegade, 2 outlaws, and 1 deputy. 6 players, you have 1 sheriff, 1 renegade, 3 outlaws, and 1 deputy. And then 7, you have 1 sheriff, 1 renegade, 3 outlaws, and 2 deputies.
Yep. So, but yeah, it's really interesting because you have to try to figure out who is the outlaws and who's not based off of how people are attacking. And like the big thing is because you don't know if you're killing a deputy as a deputy or you're killing an outlaw as an outlaw. That's where the fun comes in. And obviously the spirit of the game is you don't tell everybody who you are.
Right. You also have to be careful what decks you play with this.
Right.
If you play a deck like my Lisa deck that hurts everybody equally, like that's not helping the sheriff if you're the deputy.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, there is some strategic in that sense. You want to pick a deck that maybe isn't going to do, as I like to call it, AOE damage, which is basically hits everybody.
You also don't want to, if you're a deputy, really play a deck that has a combo win.
Right.
Because you're actually taking out the sheriff then.
Right. Yeah. You're killing the sheriff at that
If
point.
the sheriff plays that, that's fine.
Yeah. So it's almost like the sheriff wants to play pretty much the most overpowered thing and just try to kill everybody else.
Yeah.
And then because even if he kills the deputies, he's okay.
Yeah, because he doesn't know who they are.
Yeah,
It's
he
like,
just needs to live.
sorry.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's really interesting how that plays out and how you can kind of do that. And this is something I think too that's a lot of fun for people who are very much table talking politicking kind
Yeah.
of players. Like this is super fun for them.
Because a lot of times an outlaw will not want to tip their hand because everybody will come after them. So
Right.
they might protect the sheriff sometimes even.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Or they may not attack him for a long time.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, well, there's
And
no
the-
way they're an outlaw.
And the
then.
one nice thing too with this is with it being with Magic is that maybe the Renegade is playing a deck that hits multiple targets because then he can like play it off as, well, I swung at him, but by defect or by side effect, sorry guys, it also hits you guys. But
Yeah.
really, he wanted to hit the other people, but he wanted to look, you know. So there's a lot of mind stuff you can do. So that is a fun way to potentially play.
This
your next
is the
Commander
best
game.
format if you're going to play with more than 4 players, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you want it to go quicker and kind of have more of a point.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
6-7 players normally would take forever to play a game.
Right.
But in Sheriff, it goes a little quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's get into Commander Poker.
The main event.
Yep. So it's not super complicated. So it just adds a betting phase to this.
Right.
Okay. So and chips and an ante. So you're going to ante up. You start off with, let's pretend 50 chips. You
Yeah,
can
per
decide,
person, 50 chips.
and these chips have no real value unless you guys want it to have value.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you guys want to turn it into like a home poker game, then do it.
Yeah.
But it could just be for fun using chips as imaginary like Monopoly money
Yeah.
or whatever. You could use Monopoly money if you really want it.
Yeah.
If you want it to feel more, if you're maybe playing Thunder Junction decks and you want it to feel old school.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
sure there's a cowboy version of Monopoly somewhere out there. You
Yep.
get cowboy money.
So before the game starts, everybody would have an ante. So you might say it's 5 chips or $5, whatever you're calling them.
Right.
So everybody has to ante that up at the beginning. And then you play a round, your first round. Okay, usually it's going to be drop a land pass, maybe it's drop a land soul ring. And then after that first round, you start the round of betting. So it starts with the first player. After the last player in the round goes, then it's back to the first player. The first player is going to bet. He can either call or, check, or he can raise. So he can say,
Yeah.
you know what? I got a real strong start. I'm gonna raise it.
Right.
You guys got to pay more. And then the next person in line, if he doesn't place a bet, can check or raise. Otherwise, they have to call or fold.
Right.
Okay.
And folding in this case, just so you guys know, is scooping.
Yeah,
You are
you're scooping.
conceding the
You're
entire,
conceding the game.
Not just that hand. Like you're not like you're literally just saying, all right, I'm out of this game.
So I have not tested this enough to know for sure,
right.
but I think this will make games actually go quicker
Right.
because somebody's like, you only have so many chips you're going to play with for the night, right? So you're not going to want to waste chips on a game you know you're not going to win.
Right. Exactly.
You know, maybe you had to mulligan down to 4 cards and you still didn't really get anything good.
Yeah.
You know, so you're just like, I'm not going to throw more money into this that's not going to go anywhere. I want to have
Right.
this for later. So, you know, it's. I think it'll go quicker. We don't have enough data to prove that. That's my theory.
Yeah.
So anyway, so then after that round of betting, once everybody has called or raised and it's the pot square,
Yep.
then you start the next actual round. You play as normal, and after that round, then there's another betting round. The other thing is, unless something big happens, don't bet every round. Don't raise every round.
Yeah.
Usually, like the first round of betting, probably everybody's got to check.
Yeah.
Unless
more
somebody
likely than not.
really like,
I mean, if they tee off,
yeah, if they have land, soul ring, arcane signet, you know,
Mox.
Mox,
Yeah.
and their commander.
yeah. I mean, if you're playing an Urza deck and they have all that out and Urza's out, like y'all might as well just fold. Like that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You know, so unless that happens, probably the first round nobody's going to bet. They're all just going to check.
yeah, everyone's
So
probably gonna
that
check.
should go quick. Don't think that every round's going to be bogged down by betting, because
Right.
most rounds nobody's going to bet. It's only when strong things happen, unless they're trying to buy the pot, in which case, well, we'll get into. So here's what can happen if somebody at some point doesn't have enough chips to cover the pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they still want to stay in it. They can go all in.
Right.
All right, and just like in normal poker, you start a side pot for the money they couldn't cover.
Right.
They can no longer place any more bets, but they can stay in the game and try
Yeah.
and play for that, what's in there.
Right.
Okay? So they're left out of all further betting,
Mm-hmm.
but they can keep playing the game. But the money over here, they are not involved in that as a secondary
Yeah,
pot.
even if they win the game, they can't get that pot.
Yeah. So, again, it's just like poker. You can look up the rules for this if you're not familiar with poker. So keep going. Now, when you get to the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the person that won was the person who went all in but couldn't cover the bet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So they get what they went in for.
Right.
However much total amount of chips they put in for the game, they get all that amount from everybody back.
Right.
And then, and you should have been keeping track of it in the pots. I mean, you keep that pot the way it is. And then the second place player would take the side pot.
Right. Because he technically is the one that won all of that.
Now, if he also was not eligible for that pot, then would go to third place.
Right.
Okay. If you have a situation where a player knocked out two players at the same time,
Right.
those or the let's say the final player played a combo.
Right.
That's a good example. Or he knocked them both out simultaneously
Via damage.
via attacking equally.
Right.
Then you would just keep the game the way it is. The player who won wins his pot, and the secondary pot is battled about between the. You just keep the play going.
Right. So
To
yeah,
figure out
instead
who
of
the
and,
second place.
so they would have to keep trying to kill each other. You already guaranteed your first place spot, but they need to finish out
Right.
to see who beats out the other one for the second place.
Yep.
If that indeed matters.
And so that's pretty much in a nutshell how it goes. And like
Yeah.
I said, most rounds you're just going to want to check. You're not going to have enough chips to want to bet every round because some of these games do
Right.
play longer. But just when you're going to be playing with your buddies over the course of a night, it's just a way to kind of make it matter, right?
Yeah.
And you can keep track over the course of weeks who you can make a league out of this,
Yeah.
you know. And then some additional strategies or variations. So you could do a bounty rule too, right?
Yeah.
So you could allow people to call bounties
Mhm.
and say, "Hey, I'll pay 5 chips or 10 chips or $5, $10 to whoever can take Jeff out
Right.
or whoever can get rid of that, you know,
Yeah. Here's 5 chips to the first guy who gets rid of that.
get rid
thing.
of the thing that's given his creatures indestructible."
Right.
And I think that's a really cool aspect to add to the game
Right.
because now it's like you might have been willing to do that anyway.
Yeah. Now you're getting a free
Yeah.
chip stack for it.
You know, so and it encourages interaction.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is it's almost a way of, which I'm sure Jeff is going to love this. It's almost a way of politicking without actually having to politic. Just like I'm not making. Here's my deal. Here's $5 worth of chips. If someone gets rid of that, here you go. It's right in the middle of the table.
And then another thing you can do is allow buyback.
Yeah.
Right. You can allow them to maybe sacrifice some of their permanents, discard the cards, exile cards from their library to get a certain number of chips back.
Right.
Or maybe another player will give them some of their chips in exchange for that type of stuff. You
Right.
sacrifice those creatures or whatever,
Right.
you know, so you can keep somebody in it like that. And also pointing out for the idea of the bounty, it could be like Jeff says, you know what, I'll take that money and I'll just sack it.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
as long
that could be a side rule that you guys decide is okay.
Yeah. I mean, as
It's
long as
like-
it's gone,
Yeah.
whoever did it gets it.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's kind of it in a nutshell. There's also,
Yeah.
we came up with some ideas too. If you're worried about it going long, ways to make it speed up a little.
Yeah, so one of the ideas I kind of thought of when we were talking about this was if every player got to choose to start with some lands in play. So you can either choose to start with 3 basics and they'd be untapped in play from your deck, or you can choose to get 2 of any type of land, but you have to follow the conditions on it. So, for example, the shock lands that say you can pay 2 life to have it come in untapped. If you want to be untapped at the start of the game, you have to pay 2 life. So
Right.
you would start the game at, let's say hypothetically, if you did 2 of those, you'd start the game at 36, everyone else is at 40 life. So it's something that kind of helps everybody get into the game right off the gun. So you don't really have to worry about being like, okay, well, I had a mulligan, I had a mulligan again,
Right.
I had a mulligan again. You don't really have to worry about that. It's just like
It
yep.
also makes it so like those lands that say you have to sack 2 lands to put it in,
Yeah.
you can't do that. You can't play that land because you
Right.
can't meet the prerequisite.
Exactly. So as long as the prerequisite is able to be met and you're meeting it, you can put whatever lands in you want when it comes to the 2. So, even hypothetically, let's say you decided you want to go get like an ancient tomb and a shock land. So you take 2 life to make the shock land come in untapped and you put the ancient tomb in. So you're starting at 38 and you effectively have 3 mana available. But, you're also going to take 2 damage every time you go to top that land.
Yep.
The other fun thing I think this does too is it keeps people from maybe getting too big of a start right from the get-go because for example, if you're our token blue player Duncan, I have 3 blue mana.
Yeah.
Guess what costs 3 blue mana in almost all the things? counters.
Yeah.
at least
Some of them
one.
only cost 2,
And some of them only cost one.
but the bulk of them are 3.
Yeah, right. Like, so, you know, it's, so I think that adds a fun dynamic to it. So that's one maybe alternative rule you could add in, like,
Yep.
so that way it kind of keeps someone from feeling bad, like, I'm just gonna fold this game because I can't get lands or whatever. It just basically guarantees everyone gets to play. So that's one thing that we kind of thought of that would be fun to do.
You could also do things like allow them to. You don't want to do this too much because then you'll get guys that'll abuse it. But they go down to 4 cards and they still can't get a hand. Be like, pay Annie again. You get one more full mulligan.
Yeah, you know, you could do stuff like that where people can buy, or you know, you can make it even like a cumulative ante. Like, it's like, all right, well, if you want to do it again, now it's 15 chips. You
Yep.
want to do it again, now it's 25 chips. You know,
Yep.
it's, you know, so there's a lot of fun things you can do with this, and I do think the fun thing about this idea is the fact that unlike poker, which is always the same 52 cards in the deck, and you know, you play it out the same way. I'm specifically talking about Texas Hold'em in this case. This has a little bit of variance because of like kind of that bounty system you could do and the way Magic plays out. There's a lot more cards and a lot more interactions that can happen, and there's a lot more swinging that can happen in Magic, right? You know, one turn you might think, oh man, I'm gonna be out here. Someone bets too high, I'm just gonna fold. And then the next turn you get a draw, or someone does a board wipe, and you're like, ooh, I'm right back in it. Like, I got this.
Yep.
You know, so that is kind of the fun thing about this, and you know, hopefully.
Another alternate idea for Annie.
Mm-hmm.
So you start at who wants to go first. So if you want to go first, you pay more. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
So you bid to go first
Yeah,
instead of rolling. So okay, you know what? Annie's 5. I'll pay another 5 to go first. Somebody says, so you throw it in. They go, I'll bid 10. They throw theirs in.
Yeah.
Somebody goes, I'll pay 20.
Yeah.
Get the pot up if you want to make big pots.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the fun thing with this is like, this isn't anything hard set. Again, this is something we kind of thought of, and Duncan kind of put it down on paper and put it into words. And of course, obviously, we're going to see at some point if we can mess around and play with this and maybe try to play a game or two of it.
Yep.
To see how it pans out.
Maybe on camera. That's what I'm kind of hoping
Yeah,
for.
that'd be super fun to try to do this on camera, and that way we can kind of show what it would look like for you guys and how it would play out. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think these are some fun alternative ways of playing Magic. Of course, 2 are actual ways, and then Sheriff and Poker are a little more not sanctioned by Magic.
Right. And the poker one is something that we came up with. This is not, you know, I'll post the rules on the website so you can go there for the full readout of it. If you have any questions, you can email us cast@ChimeraSpawn.com. Be happy to answer them. But honestly, anything you make up is right. You know what I mean? This isn't, you know.
And if you think of a rule you think that's really cool and you test it out and you think it works really well, like, please send it to us, and we'll definitely amend these rules, and we'll talk
Another
about it.
idea that you didn't talk about was side bets.
Yeah, so another idea we came up with was side bets. Like, you know, for example, if someone's like, you know what, I bet 20 chips that I'm going to win this turn.
Or,
you know,
or maybe you're not betting on yourself. You're like, I feel it coming. I'm betting 20 chips that there's going to be a board wipe.
Yeah.
Now that could be strategic too.
Right.
Because if you're the guy who probably needs to have their board wiped,
Yeah.
and you're trying to like maybe goad somebody into not doing it.
Yeah. Because that's the thing is it's one of those things where it's like, well,
But somebody has to call that bet. At
Right.
least one person has to.
yeah,
take
someone has to call it, and someone has to say,
Yeah.
you know what, I'll take that action. And then
Yeah.
that becomes like its own little side pot, which could be, again, this is just something we thought of and we kind of put together. Hopefully, you know, it ends up working out and ends up being something that's super fun, and maybe, who knows, maybe it will get the caliber of what some of these other games have gotten, and there'll
Right.
be an official rule set in Wizards one day. Who knows? But
Well, I mean, Sheriff, there's no rule, but maybe it'll get at least that. kind
yeah,
of-
maybe we'll get some kind of
profile.
attention. But yeah, I mean, so this is just, again, if you guys want to mess around with this and think around and see what you think, feel free to. Like Duncan said, he'll put it up on the website, and you guys can all go check it out and see what you think.
Yep. So, how about any pro tips this week?
Yeah, so somewhat on theme. So this was one I had set for last week, but we were all excited about Aether Drift, so we didn't have as much time. But this is one that seems a little weird and somewhat controversial, but I think it's sometimes important, is knowing when you've lost, right? There are some times where people want to drag out games because they're like, well, if I draw this one card, like, we'll be fine. And I get it. Like, no one ever wants to concede and say they lost. I certainly myself did not enjoy losing. It's probably my least favorite thing to do, if I'm being honest. But with that being said, there are times where it's like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't foresee me winning this. Does anyone else foresee them winning this and keeping this from happening? No. Okay, let's just call it then. Like, there's no reason to keep, like, dragging it out sometimes unnecessarily when there's really no end in sight besides this person just destroying us. So what I mean by that is we had a game 2 weeks ago when I was out with Bryce, Paul, and Andrew, and Bryce was about to do an infinite combo and win the game with his not his token deck. What am I thinking of? Energy deck.
Okay.
And so I had a way to keep it from going off. I had creatures on the board that were allowing me to use abilities to make -1/-1 all creatures. Or each creature takes 1 damage. Each player takes 1 damage. It was my Indoraptor deck. The creature that he was going to combo off with had 2 toughness. I had enough mana to do 2 damage. And I looked at my hand. I looked over his board and I said, well, if I do this, it will set me back a little bit, but I still have a chance of winning. So I did it. Bryce got a little upset because that was the night Andrew won every single game. And then lo and behold, Andrew ended up winning that game. Right. That was a moment where I looked at my hand, I looked at the situation, and I thought, you know what? I still think I can win this. Jump to a couple weeks before that. Me, Duncan, and Jeff are sitting down playing a game. We're in this game. Jeff does a play. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll let you have it. Even though I think it's a little tricky the way you did it, but I'll let you have it. It gets to my turn. I do something, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at it. It gets to Duncan's turn. Duncan says, I'm going to make a bajillion of these guys, and they're going to swing at both of you. I had a fog in my hand. I had enough mana to cast 1 fog. Jeff was coming right after him with 10 dinosaurs to kill us both. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I could fog this. There's no reason for me to fog this.
Yeah.
Like,
you're just choosing who you lose against.
Exactly. And so there's some times where that's the case, where it's like, you know what? I can choose to let somebody else win if I want to. Or I can just let the game end so we can start another one, shuffle up, and play another game. And I said, you know what? Whatever. I'll let it through. Duncan, you win. You got it. Like, it just, in my mind, if I would have had enough mana to maybe do 2 fogs and get back to my turn, different story.
Yeah.
But
and the other thing I think was relevant, I don't think I had any cards in hand. Maybe I had 1 card in hand.
Right. And you were
so unless
tapped
that
out.
1 card and I was tapped out for mana.
Yeah. And
so I don't know of any free fogs.
Right. And I only had, like I said, because I had 2 mana up, and I had a 2 mana fog and a 1 mana fog. So there's just no way for me to cast both, 1 on his turn, 1 on Jeff's turn. It was just impossible. Yep. And so I was just like, you know what, Duncan, you can have it. Like, I'll give it to you. Because there's no reason for me to fog Duncan just to let Jeff win on his turn. Right. It doesn't make sense. So, sometimes there are times where it's like, hey, I'm going to lose. I think we're all going to lose. Let's just go to the next one. And then there's other times where it's like, no, I think I have a chance. I'm gonna keep fighting, and just knowing when to do that, I think, is sometimes important for not just the table,
what you're
but yourself.
saying is, to keep on theme with this episode, you gotta know when to hold them.
Yeah, you gotta
know when to fold them.
You gotta know when to fold them. That's right. Yeah, exactly. That's why I thought it was very on theme, and it was funny we did this. I was like, oh, that works out. But yeah, you just gotta know when to hold them. You gotta know when to fold them. You gotta know when you're beat. You gotta know when to beat them.
Yep.
So just something to kind of think about when you're playing your games. I get it. There's always that. If I draw this 1 card, I can win. There's 99 cards in your deck. There's barely a 1% chance you're going to draw that card.
Yep.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Be respectful of the other players, who are out there playing maybe not as much time that you have to get to play, so they want to maximize their time.
Right. Something I just thought of with the poker, going back to that real quick.
Yeah.
One thing you could do, play with pennies.
Yeah, penny poker. Penny poker's great. I used to play penny poker all the time with like my brothers and sisters and my mom and my dad. We used to play penny poker. We would just go grab a handful of change and it was like, I think we played with 20 pennies and 10 dimes, 10 nickels, and 5 quarters or something like that.
Yeah. You could just play with 200 pennies.
Yeah, you could just play with 200 pennies if you really want to. So, but yeah, penny poker is a great way to do this too, because I'm sure everyone can go to their car and grab a handful of change.
Now, your shop's probably gonna hate you for this, but if you're playing at the shop and everybody's playing with $2 worth of pennies, at the end of the night, you can buy yourself a pack.
There you go. Yeah, if you win, that's a pack, baby.
Yep.
Now they might hate you for giving them 700 pennies.
Yep.
But technically,
if you play with 250 pennies, you can get 2 packs.
Yeah.
No tax. You gotta have a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, just kind of a last minute thought on that. I think it's a good point. You really, there are some times where I could have stopped somebody from winning, but I just would have died anyway.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. I stopped somebody from winning, but they already wiped out my lands. What's the point?
Right.
Please put me out of my misery.
Yeah.
And I've seen people like Well, I'm gonna counter. Why? Why are you gonna counter that? Do you think you can win? I don't want him to win. Well, that's a dumb reason to.
Are you going to stop the guy who's next from winning then?
Yeah.
No? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good job. You just picked him to win. Like, what's
Yeah.
your, yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it is about that. Now with Jeff, and the other thing that was relevant, I think Jeff had won almost every game that night.
Yeah, he did. He won like 3 or 4 games in a row or whatever. And I think I snuck one out early with Indoraptor because
Yeah.
I got like a crazy combo off like right in the beginning.
Yep.
And then I got like one other one, but he had like 4 wins already at that
Yeah,
point.
and it's like, you know what? You've had enough wins.
Yeah.
I'm not giving it to you.
yeah, I'm definitely. I know for a fact if I do this, I'm gonna give you the win, and I'm not gonna do that. So I'm just gonna let Duncan win.
Yep.
Because that's easier.
But that's about all the time we have. I do want to go over the contest real quick, just
Yeah.
as a reminder. We are running a giveaway for the Secret Lair Marvel Foil Edition. All the sets. It
Right.
does not include the Earth's Mightiest Emblem, but other than that,
Unfortunately,
it is all the Marvel cards, Secret Lair, in foil. So all you got to do is email us, cast@commanderspod.com, subject line contest. In the body of it, put where you subscribe to us and what your handle is on there.
yeah, your username or handle on
Yep.
that, whatever it is, so that way we can make sure we track you and give you each credit for the contest.
Yeah, for each one you're subscribed to us is an entry. If you are a Patreon subscriber, you are automatically getting 3 entries no matter what, even if you don't email us.
Which, by the way, thank you to you guys who did subscribe to Patreon. We went up. I think we said we got a couple more Patreon subscribers.
We got 3 more. So
we got 3. Thank you guys. We
Yep.
appreciate you very much.
We appreciate it. So let's keep going. The goal here is to give away the Marvel set. We do need to hit 50 YouTube subscribers, but you have until March 28th.
Right.
So you got plenty of time. And
Yeah.
at the rate we're going, we're going to hit that way before.
Yeah, I think when I checked the other day, when I was checking on some of our videos, I think we were almost at 30.
We're at 30 now.
We're at 30 now. There you go.
As of this morning. I
Yeah,
looked
this
up
morning.
there.
Okay. The last time I
Um,
checked was Friday. So yeah.
So, we should easily hit it. And if we do hit it, I'm going to put forward some more prizes.
Yeah,
But
we'll have
with
a push
stretch
goal. Yeah,
of
stretch
maybe
goal or
trying
push
to get
goal.
to 100.
Yeah.
Something like that. But like I said, we're going to easily hit 50. Just give us an email, send us where you're, and if you go on Patreon, you automatically get 3.
Yeah, 100%. That's the best way to do it is
Yeah. And to win, you also do to win the Marvel set, because there is also a backpack with our logo, and there's a crossbody bag also with our logo.
Mhm.
To win the Marvel set, we do have to hit 50, and you need to be subscribed to us on YouTube.
yeah, required YouTube subscription.
Yep.
So
And we're talking 50. The 50 subscriptions have to be in YouTube, because we're more than 50 on almost everything else. So
yeah, so YouTube specifically is what this push is for, guys. So again, you guys who have been subscribing, we appreciate it. You Patreon people, we appreciate it as well.
but remember, sign up for us somewhere else too that you're not already subscribed, because it's
Yeah.
an extra entry for you with the same email.
Yeah, I think Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music,
Audible,
all those places
Yeah.
we're at. We have it sent everywhere. So hopefully there's one of those formats that you can listen us to on, which we would appreciate it.
Yep.
And of course, too, don't forget we are doing all these in video now as well. So that's the big thing for the YouTube page is we are trying to put up more videos for you guys. So you can see our ugly mugs as we talk about Magic.
Yep, and we have been putting up. We have a bunch of shorts up there.
Yep.
We have more pack openings. We're gonna have this Aether Drift collector booster soon. That
Yeah,
should be up.
hopefully that should be up a couple days after this goes up this Thursday. I'm trying to hopefully get it up that same weekend so you guys will see it because this is the official launch weekend for Aether Drift, if I
Yep.
remember correctly. Yep.
Yep.
So I want to try to get it up this weekend so you guys can see me open those packs and hopefully we get some good pulls for Duncan again.
I want that first place Chrome Mox.
There you go. Chase card, baby. First place Chrome Mox.
I'll take a serialized Aether Drift. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, that'd be sick too.
Not Aether Drift.
Aether Spark?
Aether Spark.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say no to that for
Yeah,
sure.
that'd be dope.
I actually want that more.
Yeah.
Maybe the Chrome Mox.
I mean,
is a
we
little
tried
more
for it, guys. We
realistic.
tried for the Edgar Markov for him. I even said in that video, I was
You
like,
got me on Edgar Markov. It just wasn't.
yeah, it
serialized.
wasn't a serialized one. So we got halfway there. Maybe this time we'll get the serialized part right.
Yep. But so anyway, that's the contest. If you have any questions, email us at castcommanderspod.com. I'll get back to you and let you know.
Yeah, and then one more thing too. We did get an email from one of our listeners, and by the way, thank you for that email. It meant so much to us.
Yeah.
When we Duncan sent it to us, and me and Jeff read it, and for me personally, that's super cool. I'm glad that we're able to be entertainment for you as
Yep.
unprofessional
So I
and
don't
crazy
want
as we
to
are.
give the person's name with the details, so I'm
Right.
just going to give the details because I just think it was a cool story. So they said that they had played online on
Arena.
a lot, but
Mhm.
they had not gone in person. They were very shy about going and trying to start this, in person.
Right.
And so we did an episode where we talked about, how to do it, how to get into games, how to talk to people,
Right.
and kind of encouraging people. And they said that was when they decided to try and do it. And since then they go now.
Yeah.
And they go, I don't know if they said every week, but they go regularly.
Yeah.
And that was just really cool. I like to know that we helped you get there. It made us all feel really good. We appreciate that you appreciate us.
Yeah.
And
Means a
just
lot.
know that we appreciate you probably twice as much. That really meant a lot.
More than you could ever know.
Yeah, no, seriously, that was really cool. So
Yeah. Super cool story.
I've
and-
gotten quite a few really cool
Yeah.
kind of backgrounds to people in some of these entries, or kind of on top of these entries and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'm.
that's been really cool. I did not expect that kind of. I figured it would just be very robotic.
Yeah.
But I have gotten to kind of know some of the listeners a little better, which was really cool.
Yeah, and of course, we appreciate any kind of emails, any kind of feedback. The big thing is too, I think we just got one recently for a guy that's kind of struggling with building a commander, and I think we're gonna try to do an episode for that for him. So again, guys, we do read your emails, we read your comments, and we love to help you guys out. And as one of our newer listeners and followers got to go out to her shop, we love inspiring people to get out there and get in your LGSs and meet people. And as he said, almost everyone he's met's been really good. Of course, a couple salty people here and there.
None of the ones coming
but-
through email, but you're always going to get some trolls on the comments. and
Exactly.
stuff,
So, but yeah, I mean, the guy that gave us the story said that it's been a great experience, and he's
Yep.
really glad he did it. And
Yep.
so that's what matters, guys.
Yep. So, anyway, but yeah, so, just support us however you can. Emails castcommanderspod, whether it's for the contest, whether it's for ideas, feedback, whatever. We love hearing from you guys. You can always check out our website, commanderspod.com, and obviously check out our YouTube.
Please.
Patreon.com/commanderspod. We really appreciate any support there. And, the other thing you can do, kill Andrew first.
Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold, with heroes and villains, new and old. Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan guide the way in the world of EDH we play. So tune in, friends, let's draw and go. In the Commander's Pod, the love will show. From our decks to yours, we share the spark in this world of magic. We'll leave our mark.